This is 93 Million with Doug Andrew. Welcome to 93 Million with Doug Andrew, where we talk about how to optimize your assets, minimize taxes, and empower the three dimensions of your authentic wealth. My name is Greg Dukowitz, your host, facilitator, IUL enthusiast, and amateur singer-songwriter. And in today's show, we're talking about the risk of taking risks, how different vehicles compare when accounting for taxes and fees, and how can you get a free copy of the L.A.S.E.R Fund. And we're joined by New York Times bestselling author of the L.A.S.E.R Fund, and creator of the three dimensions of authentic wealth, Doug Andrew.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Good to have you, Doug. Co-author of the L.A.S.E.R Fund, IUL mastermind, and a man who claims to be better looking than his brother, Emran Andrew.
Oh, it's not a claim. It's a fact. I'm ready. Let's rock and roll.
Also co-author of the L.A.S.E.R Fund, the IUL Einstein, and a man who claims to be better looking than his brother. What's going on here? What is Aaron Andrew? Welcome,
that is
Aaron.
just a claim. That is not fact.
Excited to be here, you guys. Let's do this.
Welcome, Aaron. And one of the original converts from Whole Life to IUL, the president of L.A.S.E.R Financial and one of the top IUL specialists in the country, Brandon Johnson. Welcome, Brandon.
Howdy.
Good to have you. Gentlemen, lots to cover today. Let's get started. Let's jump right in with our first segment, the big, beautiful tax bill, narrow house margin. Well, it looks like the House has passed the big, beautiful bill with a narrow margin. According to Reuters, the package passed in a 215 to 214
Barely.
vote. That is narrow. That's as narrow as it can get. After a marathon push that kept lawmakers debating the bill through two successive nights. Allegedly, one of the House members actually fell asleep during this time. The question now is, will it pass the Senate? Senator Eric Schmidt weighed in on Fox News.
But in the Senate, it's our turn to take a look at this, and I think that everybody's very unified. We understand what a historic opportunity this is because we only need 51 votes. So if Republicans can hold together, we don't need any votes from Democrats. We've got some work to do, but we feel pretty positive about it.
And I just want to underscore the point that you made earlier, which is the extension of the 2017 tax cuts effectively makes it so Americans do not get a tax hike. And that is really important to working class Americans. The big question, though, is can this bill be on his desk by July 4th?
I think that's a great goal for us to have. You've also got sort of this debt ceiling X date sometime in August. So we understand that the time is of the essence. We need to deliver for the American people because, as you mentioned, it'd be cataclysmic if those tax cuts aren't extended. Everybody's unified in making sure we go do that.
Okay, so if the bill fails to pass, it could be cataclysmic, as she says, and as he says. Doug, how important is it to Americans to keep the Trump tax cuts in place?
Very. Now, let me explain why. Let's go to the wisdom table here. And in order to understand this, you perhaps have heard certain politicians say it will be the biggest tax increase we've seen in 2-3 decades, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, where are they coming up with this? So let's look at the chart here. This is a single person, okay? In 2025, over on the right-hand column, a very common tax bracket is 22%, let's say. Mm-hmm. And that's somebody, a single taxpayer making between $48,475 and $103,000. That's taxable income, okay? In a 24% tax bracket, that's people making over $103,350 up to $197,300, okay? Now, the 22% is going to go up to 25, and the 24 is going to go up to 28, and people say, well, that's only 3 or 4% more. Come on.
Right.
No, it isn't. Before I show you this, let's go to a married couple filing a joint tax return. Over there on the right, a married couple in a 22% bracket is anybody making between $96,950 taxable income up to a little over $200,000. Okay. 24% bracket is $206,000 clear up to $394,000. These are some of the lowest tax rates we've seen in quite a while. Trump did this in 2017. So what does it mean? What really happens if they don't pass this or extend it? So if we move to the 22% bracket, it moves up to 25. And some people who just are simpletons, they go, well, that's only 3%.
That's only 3%.
Well, it's actually 13.6%.
Right.
And people go, how do you figure? Okay. If we go from 22 to 25, that's 3% more. You take 3 and divide it into 22.
Right.
That's actually 13.6% more money.
Yeah.
Which is a huge tax increase.
Right.
But there's a lot of couples in America that are going to move from 24 to 28.
Right.
And again, simpletons say, oh, come on, that's only 4% more. No, it's 16.66 because you divide that 4%. For example, on every $1,000 of income, you used to pay $240 in tax. Now you pay $280. That's $40 more.
Right.
$40 divided into $240 is an extra 16.66% increase. People can't just afford 16.66% increase in taxes. It's going to really it's going to stagnate the economy. It's going to affect people. It's huge. And the same thing happens. The 32 goes to 33, but the 37 goes to 39.6. But that's what people don't understand. And some people call this funny math. No, it isn't. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be too late if they don't extend it. And we're going to see a dramatic negative effect in the economy is my prediction.
Yeah, and of course, we're using we use last marginal rates for these dollars when we're calculating these tax impacts because that's how it happens. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, I'm going to reiterate exactly what Doug said. Again, to kind of make sure everybody understands taxable income. You know, we talked about the taxes you pay on your income. It's going to be the income after all of your deductions and exemptions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you might be earning a lot more, but then you get all of the deductions, and that's what you're paying the taxes on. That's what reflects here.
Yeah.
But those increases are they're nothing short of just like they said, cataclysmic.
Right.
I mean, they're going to cause every household to fill it in their pocketbooks.
Yeah.
And it's going to slow down the economy. It's going to slow down everything. And with inflation not coming back down, I mean, it's going to be it can be a double hit.
Yeah.
On most individual house homes.
Yeah, Aaron, and Aaron, you had thoughts on this earlier. What other kind of aspects does this affect instead of just people's taxes in their personal lives?
Yeah, it's going to affect the economy big time, kind of like Doug was saying, because it's already baked in. The markets and the economy, they've already baked in that this is going to happen.
Right.
So if it doesn't happen,
yes.
If it's like something doesn't happen, doesn't pass, then there's going to be massive, I think, crash in the market.
Sell-offs.
Yeah. Companies are going to back off. They're not going to have as much in investment because they're going to hold on to cash liquidity because it's like, oh, taxes are going up. We can't afford for expansion. So yeah, that could easily happen. Is we could have some major issues in the economy if it doesn't pass because they've already baked it in. By now.
Okay. So good. Are we still all feeling pretty confident that it's gonna happen before July 4th? Brandon, do you feel like that's still on track? Like last time we talked about this, we all felt pretty comfortable it was going to happen. How are you feeling still?
I would bet that would happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything that I've been hearing, reading, and now it's kind of in the Senate's hands.
Yeah, and it seems like the House had more of a narrow margin for error than the Senate does.
There's more X factors there.
Right.
The House.
Yes.
For sure. But going along with what all these guys are saying, Aaron's right. I mean, if we don't see it pass, the economy, we're going to see some sluggish movement in the economy. People don't want to hire. People are going to hold money back. Raises, things like that. People just, they hoard, cash a little bit more to be safe and protected.
It could throw us into a recession. Just this
one thing.
Yeah.
Because it's so big, it's so beautiful that if it doesn't happen,
it ain't going to be beautiful. It ain't going to be big anymore.
Exactly. All right. Coming up, how can you get a free copy of the Laser Fund? But first, just a reminder that if you're enjoying this content and you want to see more of it, please like and subscribe. And hey, ask us a question or comment. We may use it in one of our next shows. Okay, the risk of taking risks. I know that's very profound, okay? I came up with it myself. According to Schwab, and of course this is fairly common knowledge, the closer one gets to retirement age, the more conservative their portfolio should be. Okay, this makes sense, as market losses are much more devastating as you get closer to retirement. So here's a chart showing typical recommended allocations of simple stocks and bonds as someone ages. The problem problem is sometimes individuals preparing for retirement often feel like they, quote, get behind on their retirement savings, and they try to find a way to catch up. And the way to do that is just by putting their money in high-risk investments to try to catch up. According to the Institute of Financial Wellness, taking on high-risk investments as a retiree can be exhilarating, but it's not without its pitfalls, which reminds me of a video clip I've seen recently.
How are you today? Making a deposit, are we? Great. We can just put that into your retirement account and make it go to work for you, and it's gone.
What? What? All right. Aaron, what's the danger of people, close to retirement? They've saved, but they feel like they're behind, and so they try to take their portfolio and take on higher risk to try to catch up on their savings.
People can get huge depression and huge issues when they lose it.
Yeah.
It's just too much risk. It's too much stress. So that's the problem is people have a lot of stress when they start to take a lot of risk, and they're trying to make ends meet. It's like, just take it easy. You're going to have to, because if you didn't save in your earlier years,
right,
just take a deep breath, look at planning a little bit longer, working a little bit longer, maybe working part-time, but don't take some major risk where you're going to lose it all.
Right.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the stress, not worth the headache. And because, you should be conservative as you get older.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Emran, thoughts on this?
Where do I start? Where do I end? I got lots of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about it, I immediately think of a client that I had, a dear client of mine, and they kind of did that. They kind of pulled some money out of more conservative areas there and threw it into more aggressive. And initially, it wasn't depressing. It was really exciting because the money shot up.
Some money.
And because the money was shooting up, they grabbed more of their conservative money.
Right.
And started pursuing it, and it's shooting up, and it's shooting up. They're like,
they got greedy.
Man,
no.
I'm gonna be able to retire sooner. Oh, no. And I have another client who's thinking, man, I'm gonna be able to buy a yacht. I mean, this is pretty cool.
Oh no.
And then that might have continued on for they kind of got lulled into a little bit of a false sense of security. And then all of a sudden, within 6 months, I mean, it took 4 years to grow this growth, and it was great growth. But then 6 months, 8 months, less than a year, lost it all.
Yeah.
They lost everything that they had made. They were right back down. And luckily, they were like, look, my safeguard is it gets back down to what I put in.
Yeah.
Stop it there because I can't afford to lose my safety blanket, the safe money that I had started with.
The basis that they put in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we also lost 3 or 4 years. I lost 3 or 4 years that they could have kept on earning over there.
Right.
And so now they're almost feeling like, crap, I kind of almost have to stick with this because now I'm even further behind than I thought I was. And so it again,
You're locked
it's that
into the strategy.
Yeah. And I look at it, you don't necessarily have to get more conservative as you get older. What we usually see and what I've seen and what I've learned from my dad, working with him for so many years now, I've been doing this for 25 plus years, is you've got to get smarter with your money.
Yeah.
As you get closer to your retirement, you don't necessarily always have to get, it may be more conservative, but more importantly, getting more conservative, you get smarter. Like, how can I eliminate some of the biggest expensive taxes, or how can I still get growth but eliminate some of the risk? So you start thinking smarter rather than just following the crowd.
Yeah.
You keep following the crowd, you're going to keep on getting what everybody else is getting. But you start thinking differently. And that's what I learned early on is affluent people think differently.
Right.
And when you start thinking differently, you start thinking smarter. And so maybe you don't have to go down to being ultra conservative. You can actually still get growth and get all of the safety that you were looking for.
Yeah.
So it's about being smarter with your money, even more so than being more conservative with your money.
Yeah. Strategic. I'm talking about the swing versus the clubs. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this? Is there kind of a balance, or is there a middle ground that can be had to still give upside? We actually talk about this a lot. What are your thoughts on this?
Just using a baseball analogy, singles and doubles. If you're hitting singles and doubles, you're going to win.
Yeah, right.
Moneyball.
I love Moneyball. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's you're playing the numbers, you're playing the odds to your advantage. Home runs and grand slams, as exciting as they are, grand slams don't come around all that often. But here's the thing with financial planning and saving, if you're hitting singles and doubles, if you're just being smart and you're putting money away in smart places and you're doing it over time, you're accumulating, you can afford to take some risk and say, hey, now's a strategic time to swing for this grand slam.
Yeah.
But if you get to the point where you're kind of, I'm getting ready to retire, I don't have anything, I'm just going to try to hit grand slams. That can be a desperate, like you said, depressing feeling.
So stressful.
But if you've accumulated, you have my smart money over here, and you know what, an opportunity has come up where I think I can afford to take this risk where I'm going to swing for the fences. That's a good feeling and a good place to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And it's
when you're up like 5-6 runs is when you swing for the grand, not when you're behind 3 or 4 runs, right? You swing for the grand slam when you're up, not when, obviously when you're down, you're going to, in the sports analogy, they're going to do it because they're so desperate. But like you said, avoid that desperate swing.
Yeah.
Rather than swing with confidence, rather than swing from desperation.
We see this with clients all the time. You meet with somebody and they're either real aggressive, like so much is at risk. You're like, whoa, be careful.
Right.
We have other clients, they have some risky money, but they have a lot of safe money. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, you're okay over here.
You've got this
okay
balance.
to have that. You have balance.
I have nothing against Bitcoin, but if you're 100% like banking on your whole retirement and your future on Bitcoin, it's just so
that's
uncertain.
scary,
but it
right?
can be exciting if you've already have a good preservation of cash in a protected position, and like I can afford to take some risk and buy some Bitcoin.
Right.
Great. Jump on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a really interesting thought. That kind of swing. Imagine if our mortgage payments went up and down like the price of Bitcoin or something. Okay, Doug, wrap us up with this segment. What are your thoughts?
Well, would it surprise you if I had a metaphor?
Not at all. The king of acronyms.
There we go.
Yeah, for years in the various dozen books that I've been honored to author and the receptivity we've had, I've always talked about the risk-return paradigm. But as you approach later years, now I'm 73. I don't color my hair, Brandon.
Don't you have hair to color?
A lot of people think you do, but it's not true.
Yeah, for everybody out there, he does not color his hair.
He really doesn't.
In one of my books, I actually put a cartoon that depicts this, okay? Yeah. So a few months ago, I went skiing, and I can get up on the slopes sometimes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday. And I can get in 12 runs in 2 hours, which is as many runs as a lot of people get in all day.
Unless you're me, I get in like 50.
Okay. But I went up and I got in these runs, and you can get into the mentality, I got to get my money's worth, okay? And I started to really get tired.
Yeah.
And I knew I was done. I had another run or 2 left in me. But I had a torn ACL earlier in life, and I can tell when I'm overdoing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can either get my money's worth and keep going, and then when I'm tired and I'm worn out, I crash and burn as I'm coming down the final mountain.
Yeah.
That's like retirement. And I had the wisdom to go, you know what? I'm not going to have another run. In fact, I may even ride down in the safety and warmth of the gondola.
Yeah.
And I get in the gondola, and now I'm gonna hit the bottom. Okay,
safely.
Retirement safe.
Yes.
Instead of taking unnecessary risks and risk crashing and burning.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation. The older you are, no need to take unnecessary risk, because you could crash and burn and then you'll regret it.
So isn't that the statistic? Most of the accidents happen towards the end of a ski day because people are tired and they kind of take unnecessary risks at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I heard years ago, most accidents occur within 5 miles of your house. And so I told my wife, let's move.
And there it is. All right. Ching. All right. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Why structure matters, the good, the bad, and the ugly. According to ChatGPT, the cost of a poorly designed IUL policy, which usually happens from a typical agent, can eat up to 2.5% of the gross return, while a properly structured IUL can have a cost drag of less than 1% of the overall rate of return. A properly structured whole life policy still has a cost drag of about 2% over the policy life, just because of how the whole life chassis kind of works. Emran, what's the difference between a properly structured IUL and a typically structured IUL that most agents do?
25-fold sheet of paper versus 50-fold sheets of paper.
Okay.
You got to watch the last.
I mean, again,
episode.
Yeah, right.
93
So watch
million.
our latest episode before.
I mean, again,
Or the first episode.
It's that efficiency when you look at the miracle of compound interest. Yeah, I mean, tightening it up and tightening up that belt is everything. Every half a point is a significant impact. And so, you look at it, and the funny thing is they talk about that 1.5% to 2%, and that might be at one point right there. But if it continues on, it can actually the gap can even get wider if it's not properly structured.
Right.
It can start out maybe at
Like okay or typical
2 to 3%, 1.5%, 2.5%, 3%, whatever.
Yes.
But then as you get going, and in the time of life when you need the money the most, in your 70s, in your 80s,
Right.
that's when all of a sudden the gap can get bigger if it's not structured right, versus tightening it even tighter.
Right.
You want to keep on being. I mean, I always look at it. I always love to use that 5-story office building. I mean, if I own a piece of real estate, I own a 5-story office building. How do I maximize my profits?
Rent out.
Is it by renting out 80% of the building?
100%. Get every room rented out.
Yeah.
Every last corner
Right.
of that building rented out.
And that's kind of like what these ill-structured IULs are. They're mostly full. I've got my building mostly full, but why would you intentionally not lease out part of your building? You're like, nah, no thanks. I don't want your.
Let's leave this floor
Let's leave
empty
this floor
and
vacant because I want to lose money on that floor.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to lose money on that floor, and so you want to make sure it's 100% full. That's why we often say, you look at an IUL. Laser funds are properly structured IULs, but not all IULs are laser funds.
Right.
A laser fund is an IUL that has no vacancy in it.
Yeah.
Versus an ill-structured IUL will have vacancy in it, which is costing you unnecessary money.
And did I mention IUL stands for Indexed Universal Life? In case I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, what are your thoughts on this? What does it mean to properly structure an IUL?
Well, if anyone has one out there, if you have an IUL or a whole life, let us take a look at it. Let's do what we call a policy audit.
Yeah.
So smart.
Yeah, we can look at Emran's built a software. We can use this, and we can just look at a policy. A lot of times, we can look at it real quick and just be like, okay, this was designed right, or it wasn't. Like I had someone come to me, and I looked at a policy they were about to get through some other advisor, and I was like, that's actually designed correctly. I was honest. I was like, hey, they designed it correctly. This person actually did it right.
Good.
Even though I wouldn't use that product necessarily because we're all picky with the companies and our features, the integrity. So we know these companies really well, but it's all a matter of structuring it right to get that cost as low as possible and get the fees and expenses as low as possible in the time of life where it matters the most when you're taking income. That's what's so cool about these. It's not like a 1% drag all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fees are more in the beginning, less later on, but like we're talking about, the cost over the life of the policy is around 1%. We can get that even smaller with a lot of policies, whereas like a whole life has about a 2% cost when you look at what's called an internal rate of return report. We've talked about that in another episode, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, Brandon, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's interesting meeting with clients that do bring policies, to us to audit or look at and examine for them, and we're happy to do that. And so it's amazing.
We just did one, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And oftentimes I've said these exact words. I said, "Did you buy this for death benefit or for cash accumulation?"
Right.
Well, I wanted like cash accumulation. Well, it looks like this was designed pretty much just for a death benefit. There's not a lot of cash accumulation and all the vacancy and everything that Amron's been talking about.
Too much going out in fees.
Well, and and because the larger death benefits have a larger commission that pays out to the agents. So that's honestly just being honest. That's why a lot of agents structure it for death benefit.
These clients are so unaware of that.
Yeah.
There's just that you can structure it that way. They kind of think, oh, you just buy a death benefit. And then, by the way, it has some kind of cool features where the money can be linked to the market and you can't lose. And yeah, that's true, but it's not structured to maximize and optimize every dollar that's going in there. We want to optimize it going to the cash accumulation bucket and minimize this little drip that's coming out. We want to create a tiny drip to cover the cost of insurance. And that's where we talk about that 1%, on average cost, almost under 1%. So if it's engineered right, think about it from an engineer standpoint. I'll look at this audit and I'll say, hey, make sure, get a policy of your existing or get a in-force illustration of your existing policy that shows the actual cost coming out.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at it with them and say, were you aware that this cost was going to be coming out of your policy? No, not at all. It's like, well, you should know that. Like, you should know exactly how much is coming out and what's expected to go in. just like any engineered product. And that's what we do. We take a lot of pride in structuring the policies that way. So it's engineered to have as lowest cost and as highest cash accumulation.
Our clients know more about these than most advisors once we
That is
educate
so
them.
true.
It's
That
so-
is such a good point.
It's like being able to smell, like if you have a gas leak. How easy is it to smell the gas if you have a gas leak?
Yes.
And when we teach you, you'll be able to smell that whether or not you have a gas leak on your IUL. Like
Right.
It's that profound. It's that easy to look at it. You're like, no, I want to tighten that up. And obviously, if you don't tighten it up, it's dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dangerous to your money.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a huge difference. And it ties into the Laser Fund book, which we're going to talk about later as well. But Doug, wrap us up on this topic. Properly structured, Laser Fund versus kind of typically
And let's go to
structured.
the wisdom table again. But I want to preface this illustration with this, okay? Now, I've trained over 5,000 financial advisors, mostly insurance agents. I've had whole life agents come through and, they tout, we think we'll average 8%. But I ask them about internal rate of return and they get this deer in the headlight look.
Yeah.
And then I ask them to accumulate the money clear out to age 65, and I calculate the internal rate of return as if the insurance was coming along for the ride free,
Right.
which it isn't. But if they're grossing 8, they were only netting 4.2.
Right.
It took until age 95 without taking out any withdrawals to earn 8 and net 5.9 in a whole life. So,
Wow.
like you said, it gobbles up a couple of percent.
Yep.
But even IUL, if it's structured incorrectly, like you've been saying.
Yeah, we just had
Like
that
what-
savvy guy, right?
Yeah.
We had that really savvy. He had millions of dollars in his IUL. You're like, well, gosh, if you have millions of dollars in your IUL,
You must be doing great.
it must be. No, he caught on to one of your YouTube videos, saw it. He's like, I don't think. What do you do? Yeah, he contacted us, and we were able to help him.
Oh, yeah.
Shift over his IUL so that it's done like you're going to be talking about here.
Yeah.
See, I like to use the worst decade since the Great Depression, which is the Great Recession,
be
2000 to
conservative.
2010.
Yeah.
5 down years, only 5 up years, and only 2 years did we cap out. But the average was 7.23%.
Okay.
But if the IUL is structured incorrectly, you might grow 7.2, but you only net 2 or 3.
Right.
We want to, if we earn 7.2, we want to net 6.2 within 1% of the gross rate of return.
Yeah.
But if you rebalance, if you come in for annual reviews, we actually can usually bump that up to even 9.6. So in this illustration, this is why I created this, that we teach actual professionals, okay? Without diversifying and rebalancing, if you were earning an average return down there on the bottom left of 7.2, you divide that into the rule of 72, $500,000 would double to $1 million in 10 years, $2 million in 20 years, and in 30 years, it goes to $4 million. Okay.
Right.
Now, people say, well, what's an extra 2 and 2.5% going to make? How much of a difference is that?
Right.
Let me show
Over time. Yeah.
If you could move the 7.2 up to 9.6 on the bottom right, now you divide 9.6 into the rule of 72, and your
Right.
money doubles every 7.5 years. So now, at the end of the same 30-year period, you have twice as much money.
Wow.
$8 million instead of $4 million. I would rather have $8 million, and that's what just tweaking and doing it right and rebalancing does. 2.4% higher rate of return, and over 30 years, huge difference. in
Give you one
retirement
extra
estate.
fold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
an extra fold of the paper.
And because it's compounded, right? That
Exactly.
compounding effect is huge, as you go years down the road.
And this is where we love to dig into the index strategies.
Yes.
So we get into the details of all the different accounts, how they performed, which ones are the best ones to use. That's kind of our.
So if you're
nerdy, geeky
so if
thing
you're
we
an
like to look at.
engineer out there, you'll love the numbers and the data, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not an engineer, then we simplify the data for people. Laser Fund does.
Yeah.
So all of that. Okay. Well, speaking of Laser Financial and auditing policies and helping people and all that kind of stuff, if you're enjoying this content and you are wondering, how do I take advantage of these ideas? Well, Laser Financial helps individuals and families like yours implement proven strategies to grow and protect your wealth. One of our most popular tools is the Indexed Universal Life Policy, or IUL. It's not just insurance, it's a tax-free retirement strategy, a way to grow your money with compound interest and a safety net against market downturns. Imagine being protected from market losses while still participating when the market goes up and having tax-free income that allows you to keep more of what you've worked so hard to save. We're going to talk about that in the next section. Go to laserfinancial.com or call 801-505-0409 to schedule a free consultation and see how these strategies can work for you. That's laserfinancial.com or call 801-505-0409. Don't wait. Take the first step toward a brighter, more secure financial future today. Are you a financial professional and wondering how you can expand your business working with Indexed Universal Life or IUL? Are you leveraging IUL to its full potential? That's where IUL Insiders comes in. In the upcoming weeks, they're hosting the IUL Challenge. It's a free 3-day event designed specifically for financial professionals to help you build a thriving, scalable business that sets you apart from the competition. You'll learn proven strategies to market design and sell properly structured policies that deliver incredible results for your clients and for your bottom line. If you're ready to elevate your practice and scale your business, visit IULchallenge.com/93 to save your seat. Spots are limited, so don't wait. That's IULchallenge.com/93. Take your business to the next level. The Great Nat Income Showdown.
What?
Okay.
What?
I asked.
Bless you.
Gesundheit. All right. I asked Grok AI to help me come up with a comparison of different income streams for various vehicles, showing an income stream that is net after taxes and fees, or what I call NAT. Okay, do you like that? I just made it up. This is a very fascinating result. Okay, so I asked Grok AI this question.
After taxes and
fees, because if you look, it's really hard to find these comparisons like online, like, hey, account for both taxes and fees. There's articles that talk about taxes, there's articles that talk about fees, but it's hard to find comparisons of kind of both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just an AI summary. We'll get into that. But what I did was I told Grok, hey, compare an IRA at 6%, an annuity payment at 5%, a bank account at 3%, and mutual funds at a simple 7% average. In other words, no like loss years, like up downs in the mutual funds, just a simple like 7% average. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and I said only use a 0.5% asset management fee for the mutual funds. So very pretty low.
Way conservative.
Yeah, very conservative. And then the mutual, and then otherwise just use typical fees associated with each of these accounts. Okay, so those are the inputs that I gave it. And this is what happened. Now it used, and I told it to use an average marginal federal and state tax rate for taxes. So nothing too big, just kind of average, right? So it based the math on $1 million accounts balances.
Each account has a $1 million.
Each account has $1 million. So check this out. The IRA shows about $29,200 of income. So a net income of about 2.9% payout.
That's what they got to spend.
That's what they get to spend. That's
Because
the income payment.
After taxes is why, and after the fee.
Yep, what we call payout, right? The annuity surprisingly showed $44,000. It's a bit more, but still 4.5% payout about. The bank account shows the least at $22,000 payout, which makes sense. It's the lowest return. But the mutual funds, which have the highest return used, only shows about $30,600. Now, this is NAT income, okay? So now what's interesting is when I looked closer at this, I did not tell Grok AI to do this, but it actually used for the IRA and for the mutual fund, it used the 4% rule, which we've talked about on this show. Not a lot of people know, but when you have money exposed in the stock market, you're not supposed to take more than 4%. So Grok on its own said, hey, I'm going to only show you the 4% rule to kind of be in alignment. So that is actually pretty cool. But I even kind of did the math. Well, what if you just went beyond the 4% rule and just took, the amounts that the 7%, the interest that it's generating.
Growth,
right. What if
the supposed growth without major loss?
Yeah, exactly. What if we just broke the 4% rule? And it's interesting with the IRA and the mutual funds, it still showed 4.4% and 4.6% net payout respectively. Okay, that's a mouthful. Doug, let me go to you on this one. So this is only a simple exercise with AI, but honestly, I did not know what it was going to spit out when I input all this data. Do these payouts of these different vehicles, do they surprise you? Why and why not? Or why not?
Yeah, not at all. I've been in the financial services industry now for over 5 decades. And this is the kind of payout at the end of the day, because Wall Street was not designed to create predictable income streams. Plus, you have to time your retirement based on sequence of returns. We could talk about that. But that's very common. I see people accumulate $1 million nest egg. I don't know if you're like me, but I don't accumulate $1 million to have a pathetic $40,000 a year, a 4% payout.
Right.
I mean, it's because I know where I can get about double that. We'll talk about that. Okay.
Right.
But it doesn't surprise me because Wall Street, the broker-dealers say, don't you dare show more than a 4% payout. They don't want to be sued for somebody outliving their money.
Right.
And that has always been unacceptable to me because I want my clients to be able to generate not a little bit more, but double that because it's possible. So it doesn't surprise me those are the results and why AI is going to just go to the 4% rule because that's the financial services industry standard.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. Brandon, we've been talking about properly structured IUL in the last segment. Can you give us an example? What would a properly structured IUL do? How would it compare, in this kind of scenario, accounting for the NATF, as I call it, the net after taxes and fees?
And don't let me down.
This is for you, Doug. Yeah. So why we love this vehicle, this properly structured IUL, is because on the descent. So people often we've used this analogy today, but when you're hiking up to Mount Everest, I mean the majority of people think, oh, I'm going to get probably hurt or there's going to be some kind of a casualty or something like that potentially on the way up, but the majority of people get harmed on the way down. And so same thing with financial vehicles, right? It's not about just the accumulation, it's about the descent and doing the IUL properly. If we're able to show the table here, go to our wisdom table, we have created a plan where we can actually compare here. So we have at year 10 in this properly structured max funded IUL, we have $1 million at year 10. So we're just a little over $1 million. Now, the cool thing about this type of vehicle, not only do you have $1 million of cash value, you also have a protection of $1.8 million. So there's $1.8 million. So there's about $842,000 of just pure risk for your family. If you die, that 1 million just blossoms too. Now we can take, because of the effective distribution strategy with these under the tax codes, we can actually take a loan using arbitrage, using our money as collateral. So we're going to use that $1 million as collateral, allow it to continue to earn interest with the index. This is run at 6.3%.
And we've talked about these loans before, but they're not your typical kind of loans where people think, I got to pay back and it's a loan. You can watch our other segments.
Correct. Yeah. So these
are designed to give you tax-free income.
You don't have to pay the loan back. You don't have to pay the interest. So you're using your cash as collateral. We're earning 6.3. We're loaning it at roughly 5.8% is what we're showing it. In reality, the loan rates are right around about 5%. But you can see here that we're able to take a $70,000 tax-free income distribution. That's net. That's roughly 7% of our cash value. We could take more if we wanted to, but we're going to take that conservatively out to age 100. So from 65 to age 100, if you look at the account balance doing that, our cash accumulation value at age 100 is actually at $1.8 million.
Wow.
So if you're wondering what the heck, how
did it grow
my cash value,
while paying a 7% payout?
That's the beauty of spread and arbitrage. Now, this particular carrier has some really cool features called persistency credits. And if you have your policy in force for a certain amount of years, you get additional bonus credits with them. But the fact of the matter is that you're not withdrawing your money and losing out on that earning power. We've left it in that vehicle, allowed it to continue to earn interest, getting a spread. Now, the spread on this one, again, is only 50 basis points. It's 0.5. In reality, that average net spread on these loans is right around 2 to 3% on average.
So it will likely be even way better.
Yeah, because this is paying out, like what we're talking about. This is illustrated earning only 6.3% is what we can show by law, which is using the simple S&P strategy going back 65 years, what this thing would have done, which is great. This is very conservative. It could be less than this, yes. It could be less.
Right.
It could be more. It should be more than this. And some of the index accounts that we use actually have averaged more like 8. Just imagine if we could run this at earning 8% and borrowing at 5%, the current loan rate on these policies, and making that 3% spread, where Brandon just said we were only making a 0.5% spread, arbitrage on the loans, and it's coming out tax-free, by the way. $70,000 tax-free, and this is net of all fees and expenses. That income could be more like 80, 90, 100,000 a year, easy, and not only that,
actually be double, like Doug said, 2.4% over 30 years.
That's
doubles.
Goes back to what Doug was talking about.
So over 30 years, it could actually go from a 70 to 140.
Yeah.
You could increase it down the road for inflation. You could start, increase it.
Yes.
But not only that, there's also some other features called multipliers. We get better returns. There's sometimes these accounts where we show historical of 10 to 14%. So we don't have time to get into that right now.
Yeah.
But this is very conservative at 6. Other accounts have been 8, 10, 14% with some of the other strategies out there. So this is,
That's $2.5 million in total income tax-free with still a $1.8 million net death benefit.
Net of all fees and expenses,
so that's what,
tax-free.
3.3 million or so of total resources.
I think Doug calls that a generator versus
a battery. Yeah, exactly. Gosh, that's so incredible.
And
so
this
that's
is
a
with
huge
an
difference.
A+ rated carrier that's been around for over 150 years.
Over 150 years.
150 years.
Yeah.
Been around.
But here's the problem, though. I came across one of our other episodes. We talked about fiduciaries.
Yeah.
And there was a fiduciary that used this exact same company.
Yeah.
And designed the policy wrong.
Right.
Same product.
Like we were talking about in the last segment.
Yeah. Same product. Awesome. But they would design it incorrectly. So you can't just pick the right company.
It's amazing.
It's got to be designed correctly, structured properly. Because, you get an advisor can also do it wrong. So that's, again, what we specialize in.
Also, this income, $70,000, is tax-free.
Yeah, right.
And all that, when I told Grok, use taxes, I used a conservative kind of marginal rate. I think I told it the 22% marginal rate, pressed like a typical state rate, right? But how many of us think our taxes are going to go up down the road?
What? Wait, what?
So imagine if
$35 trillion?
$36 trillion
and
plus
unfunded
whatever.
liabilities, Social Security, Medicare.
Right? And so how nice is it when you have kind of a tax-free bucket? It's a really nice feeling. So
I mean, even if they get this taxes extended, you look at it and people are like, oh, they're not going up. Well, okay, think 15, 20 years down the road, guys. I mean, if your money, how long do you want your money to last? Taxes are not going to stay this low indefinitely.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Brandon. Doug, final thoughts on this segment.
Well, I like to keep it simple. And so after talking about these numbers, I just ask my audiences, why would you generate 30 or 40,000 a year of income out of $1 million nest egg when you could generate 70,000, 80,000, 100,000? See, property structured max funded IUL isn't a little bit better. It's double or more. And so we strongly recommend that you consider this, because I would rather have a tax-free return of 70, 80, 90,000. And then at the end of the day, when you die, it blossoms and transfers tax-free. The others don't do that. And I just think back in the day when I used to show people. So which one, Jim and Mary, would you like to choose? And they go, well, the one, that doesn't run out over here.
Right.
And if they didn't get it, they go, but what is it? And I'd say, well, that's life insurance. We don't need it.
I don't want. Never mind. I don't want that.
They say, well, no. How much does that cost?
I had a nickel for every time I've heard that.
Yeah, I know. How much did that cost? And I go, that's the wrong question. How much extra did it make you? Well, what's the cost of that? I said, this is net.
Right.
Well, we don't need it anymore. I said, make me the beneficiary. Choose the right one.
Yes.
It's so funny because they get hung up on what it is,
right,
instead of what it does.
Yeah. Okay, great conversation. All right, up next, how can you get a free copy of the Laser Fund book? But first, if you're wondering how to take advantage of these ideas, at Laser Financial, we help individuals and families like yours implement proven strategies to grow and protect your wealth. Go to laserfinancial.com or call 801-505-0409 to schedule a free consultation and see how these strategies can work for you. Don't wait. Take the first step toward a brighter, more secure financial future today. Also, if you're a financial professional tuning in to the show and you're wondering how you can expand your business working with Index Universal Life or IUL, join us for this IUL challenge. It's a free 3-day event designed specifically for financial professionals who want to master the art and science of IUL. It's kind of what we've been talking about here. Visit IULchallenge.com/93. Take your business to the next level. And now for the podcast question of the day. One of the most common questions we get is, what is the best way to get a copy of the L.A.S.E.R Fund, or better yet, a free copy, if that's possible? Doug, why should someone read the L.A.S.E.R Fund, and how can they get a copy?
Okay, great question. I love this. As pictured, you have a white and an orange one.
That's not two different books. I mean, it is, but it's in the same book.
This is 2 books in one, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this white-covered side is what we call the left brain. It's about 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs and explanations if you're a left brain learner. But about 50% of people are right brain learners. They love the stories, okay? And so you can just cut to the chase and flip the book over and read this one. And this has 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories about how a property structured max funded IUL, what we call a L.A.S.E.R fund, is the dream solution for all kinds of financial goals, not just retirement, college funding, business working capital, emergency funds, and on and on and on. Now, if you want to use your whole brain, your left brain and your right brain, you can use your whole brain, okay? Now,
Love it.
This is our 12th book. It's been flying off of our warehouse shelves. So this is the latest edition. Aaron constantly, and I'm talking about weekly, keeps this updated. And then when we reprint, which we have to do every few months because it's flying off of our warehouse shelves, okay? And so it's up to date. And this retails on Amazon for anywhere from $20 up to $60.
Yeah, that's right.
But we'll gift you a copy for free, okay?
Yeah, that sounds pretty
So
good.
here's
And
how
if you don't have the most recent version, it's version 3, right? Version 3
is that it? Okay.
Right? So if you
Updated
don't already
edition,
have it,
version
you can still
3.
come in and get another free copy, get version 3.
Yep.
Okay.
And so you simply go to L.A.S.E.R Fund, L-A.S.E.R fund.com, or you can click on this link, okay, or go to that link. And when you go in there, I require a little bit of skin in the game, okay? And so if you will contribute a nominal amount toward the shipping and handling, I'll cover the rest of that, and I'll pay for the book. And I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail, okay? And so when you're in there claiming your free copy, you'll have options there. If you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, you can upgrade for those and invest in those. You can register for a free webinar, which we do on a regular basis every week. You can even schedule an appointment with one of the top IUL professionals in America to have a consultation to see how a property structured max funded IUL works in your particular set of circumstances to make sure it's done right, like we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But the first step, claim your free copy. Go to laserfund.com now, and I'll see you on the other side of your brighter financial future.
Okay, awesome. Aaron and Emran, you had a small hand in producing and writing this book.
Oh, yeah, there's a few names here on the
There's a few other names besides Doug. Why should someone read the L.A.S.E.R Fund?
You want to go first?
I'll let you go
Okay.
this time. I usually take it, but I'll let you have it.
That's why I waited. So the book is amazing. Basically, like I've updated it, like we've been saying, we've updated a lot last little bit. But I really like clients to read chapters 6 through 9. And again, 5 through 10 of the white side. And I actually kind of require it. So if you come into L.A.S.E.R Fund and meet with us, I require you to read it because it takes us from this level to this level of understanding. Yeah. So you'll understand this better than most advisors, honestly.
Which is what we love to see clients do. Take ownership,
right?
Take
ownership, understand this. So clients understand at a totally different level. Where in chapter 6, you learn about indexing, all the returns we were talking about. Chapter 7, you learn about the tax codes. Chapter 8, you learn about the smart way, the sad way, and the dumb way to get your money out of the policy and tax-free via the loans, which Brandon talked about. Chapter 9 will show examples, the fees, the returns, the income coming out like we saw today. Chapter 10 compares to other alternatives. And so, those are the chapters I love clients to read before we do what we call our second appointment, where we show numbers and illustrations. It just helps people with the education process. It's written for engineers, so if you want that much detail, it's all there.
Right.
Everything's there.
You just really like chapters 6 through 9 because those are the chapters you contributed the most on.
Those are the chapters I wrote the most.
You guys had quite a bit to do with this book. So.
I know.
No, but it is. The idea is to help empower you. I mean, that's what it's built with. It's built with the idea to empower you with education and knowledge. And so that's what it's about. It's not about anything other than, I mean, again, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. And so learn from it. Now, whether or not you actually use that knowledge to your benefit, that's what wisdom is. So take what you learn from the book and actually apply. Now, does that mean you need to actually grab an IUL? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
Right.
But I promise you'll learn and you'll start thinking smarter, thinking differently about your money and about your future.
It's so great. I love it. Brandon, our special guest host for today, any final thoughts to wrap us up with this segment?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk to people who read this book, who've read this book, or in the process of reading the L.A.S.E.R fund book.
Hold on. Have you read it?
I have definitely.
Just making sure.
Yes, you can quiz me on it. Yeah.
All right.
President of L.A.S.E.R Financial.
I know, right?
But the funniest part is that people are like, oh, I've read like IUL books, and I've actually read other IUL books, and it's usually just kind of fluff. It's like, oh, isn't this great? You can link your money to the market and protect yourself on the downside, and you can have tax-free income, and it's kind of just glosses over
the why and the how.
Yes. Now this is like, I mean, meat and potatoes.
Yes.
I mean, the mechanics of how are the insurance carriers doing this, and the history of it, and using their general account portfolio and getting that fixed interest and using that to buy the participation market. I mean, it gets into depth showing the numbers behind it, and people that read this are blown away. Like, wow, I see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like these guys, like the Andrew family, they show you behind the scenes how these insurance carriers are making the sausage. How are they doing this? How can they guarantee that I get a 0 when the market's down -15? I go, oh, that's great. Well, read chapter 8, read chapter 7, read chapter 9. Yeah. It goes into great depth. I mean, you get and charts and illustrations, and most of these books out there, like I said, it's usually just very surface level, of like, here's the great benefits and features,
and then they withhold all the kind of the how-to and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and
not this book.
And it's good, bad, and ugly. If you structure it poorly, if somebody's structuring it, it's like, here's how the wheels can come off.
Yeah,
you know, and that kind of stuff is on there.
Oh, it's so good. Such a good discussion.
Give you confidence.
Yeah,
give you confidence about your money and your retirement.
Yeah, and specifically gives you the swing versus the clubs. So.
In fact, the other day on my YouTube channel, somebody got their free copy, and they made a comment. Well, Doug, tell me before my book arrives, do you ever talk about when a L.A.S.E.R fund didn't work? I go, absolutely.
Right.
When in the right brain side, in every one of the stories, we have about 5 success stories average. There's always a story about when it didn't work and why. When they didn't follow through, or it wasn't structured correctly, or whatever. And he said, thank you for being so honest. I'm going to look forward to seeing that, because I want to see what can go wrong and how to prevent it. And that's the title of the chapter. I said, you just named the title of the chapter. Yeah. Most of these chapters are only about 20 minutes long, except for Emran's chapter on self-insurance. That takes about 4 minutes. But if people only have a minute or two, I tell them, just look at the comparison to 7 different investment alternatives based on 11 criteria.
Yeah.
And you'll go, which one says yes all the way down? An IUL L.A.S.E.R fund? Or how does indexing and lock-in and reset work?
Yeah.
And so lots of very powerful charts and illustrations.
And Dad, it's not about the number of words you use. It's about using the right words.
Oh, all right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for that segment. Hey, if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. But that's all the time we have for today. Balance risk tolerance. Keep in mind the NATF. Okay, and go to laserfund.com to get yourself a copy of the book. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time on 93 Million.
Thanks, everybody.